You're listening to the One Man Show Network. Welcome to the MMA Fight Picks Podcast with your host, Aaron Weinbaum.
Hey kids, welcome to the MMA Fight Picks Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Weinbaum, and today I'm going to pick the fights for UFC Fight Night Anderson versus Blachowicz 2, which is set to take place on February 15th, this Saturday, the day after Valentine's Day, at the Santa Ana Star Center in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. But first, if you're on the Periscope or on YouTube Live, feel free to chime in, help me make some picks. Let's have a little fun. I need to open up the comments first. There we go. If you're rehashing this on a podcast platform somewhere, make sure you hit subscribe, leave a nice review, and same with the YouTube as well, the rehash there. All right, well, let's first talk about UFC 247 here, which took place last week in Houston, Texas, which apparently has worse judges than Brazil. There were several questionable calls on that card, but let's talk about the main event of the evening. You know, I don't think Jon Jones won the first 3 rounds against Dominick Reyes, and that whole deal where you got to beat the champ to be the champ, by decision or whatever. I don't subscribe to that either. I just think he lost 3 rounds. He came back, Jon Jones did rather, and won the last 2, but that's still a loss. And I don't think either Latifi lost against Derek Lewis. This isn't an MMA judging contest, but it certainly, or podcast rather, but certainly could be a podcast about it. As many screw-ups as there are, I'm not an expert. I'm not pretending to be an expert, but in the end, that fight with Jon Jones and Dominick Reyes, I guess a better decision would have been having Jared from Subway babysit your kids. I don't know what else to say about that except for no way Jon Jones won that fight in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. So maybe I think Diego Santos should fight Dominick Reyes maybe since they both arguably beat Jon Jones, and that should probably be the real champ. And, Dana White, I don't know. The way he used to hand out the interim championships, maybe. Listen, none of this is going to happen. So I'm just going to pick fights. That's what I do. This is the MMA Fight Picks Podcast. Now ad-free, back on Spreaker. Glad you're here. All right. This might be a sneaky good card, so I'm going to pick more fights than usual. It's almost more exciting than UFC 247. It very well could be. So let's get right into it. How about it? First fight I would like to pick would be Jim Miller against Scotty Hot Sauce Holtzman. I love these nicknames, man. Besides Mark Hand of God Beer, maybe Hot Sauce has the nickname edge there. I don't know. But looking at their records here, weirdly enough, Jim Miller has 2 wins in a row. Just kind of snuck in there. He says his battle with Lyme disease, he's got it under control. And it did look like against Clay Guida, that was the best Jim Miller I've seen in a long time. And now he has not fought since August 2019. Before that, he beats... this is 2 submissions in a row. This is what he does. Clay Guida, Jason Gonzalez. Before that, 2018, he gets submitted by Charles Oliveira. And, Charles Oliveira coming on real strong lately. And it's not really fair to look at that, the record before that, because I think Jim Miller was sick. I think he's telling the truth. I don't see any reason for him to lie. Then let's look at Scotty Hot Sauce Holtzman. Doctor stoppage, Donghoon Ma, back in August. That would be in Newark, New Jersey. And it was, of course, a catch weight because Ma missed weight. But it's a win. Thank goodness. Before that, he loses to Nick Lentz. Not a fan of Nick Lentz going back down to 145 pounds his last fight, but it is what it is. Bunch of wins in a row before that. But enough. You want to know the picks. You want to know who I am picking here. And I got to say, I like Jim Miller. I like the surgeons of Jim Miller. I like to think of a healthy Jim Miller later in his career coming back, making a run. Maybe he doesn't get the title. Maybe he's in that top 10, and maybe he just knocks guys back that don't belong. So, yes, this fight also snuck up on me. Yancy Mederos in the lightweight division against Lando, Funky Lando, Vannata. All right, and this is kind of a strange one for me because I do believe, unless I am mistaken, Lando is coming off a win. No, he is coming off a loss. Okay. All right, well, this fight makes a little more sense now. Let's take a look at Yancy, though. 2 losses in a row. Gregory Gillespie, TKO. Donald Cerrone, TKO. That, of course, was at 170 pounds, so that's a little different. Before that, at 170 pounds, he has wins. No, I take that back. Also at lightweight. Alex Oliveira, Eric Silver, that was welterweight. Sean Spencer. Okay, so I may be mistaken on the welterweight. Lightweight thing. These guys go back and forth here. But then let's take a look at Funky Lando. And let's not forget, Lando on short notice one time gave Tony Ferguson a run for his money where he was knocking Tony around. Now, granted, all you Ferguson haters or lovers or whatever, he wasn't training for Tony Ferguson. And Tony Ferguson certainly wasn't training for him. So, it was a totally different style. So, yeah, Lando got his shots in. We'll see. All right, taking a look at Funky Lando here. He just lost a decision to Mark Diakises. I don't know how to say that very well. Before that, he has a win over Marcus Rosa Mariano. The guy's got 2 kind of strange draws here. He had a draw against Matt Frivola, lost to Drakkar Close, had a draw with Bobby Green, back in 2017. Man. And in the end, this is really a tough one to pick. If I'm going to go with competition, besides Tony Ferguson, I think Yancy's won over some stiffer competition, for sure. And I don't think this is going to change here. As much as Lando is fun to watch, I got nothing against Yancy either. But I just think the strength of schedule here is going to show a win here for Yancy Mederos. Next up, Jon Dodson. I feel like I haven't seen him in forever. Going up against Nathaniel Wood. Let's take a look at Jon Dodson first. All right, 2 losses in a row. But let's be fair here against 2 of the best. Pietro Yan and Jimmy Rivera. But he did have a split decision win over Pedro Munoz. Everyone loses to Marlon Moraes, but he didn't get knocked out, A win over Eddie Winland. He just gets these split decisions, and, maybe he's lost a step throughout the years here. Maybe he belongs at 125 pounds, but I don't know. He's apparently a big guy in the offseason. He's just not very big, like tall-wise. So this is interesting. And then you got Nathaniel Wood. Take a look at his record here real quick. A lot of green. A lot of wins. Okay? 2 of them, 3 of them in the UFC. Submission his last 3. Jose Alberto Quinones, Andre Ewell, and Johnny Eduardo. 3 submissions in a row, okay? Before that, Cage Warriors. He's got win. This guy hasn't lost since February 2016. Are they trying to, once and for all, decide what happens with Jon Dodson? Another loss could be devastating for him. If this was his first fight in the UFC, I'd pick against him. I don't know what the odds are because I'm not that kind of podcast, but I tend to think, that Nathaniel Wood has got this one. I do. And I am a Jon Dodson fan. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. And this is probably what's going to happen. Next up, Rogerio, Bontorin against Ray Borg. Why is this fight important? Why am I picking this fight? Well, Ray Borg has had some struggles. He's had a sick kid. He's had trouble making weight. He's had trouble making weight at 135 pounds, 125 pounds. But guess what? This fight is 125 pounds, and I fear to say that Ray Borg may not make this weight. This is only Monday. The audio of this podcast will come out Wednesday. So if you're hearing this for the very first time on Wednesday, just remember I recorded this on Monday. I wish nothing but the best for Ray Borg. He's had a rough way to go. And let's just take a look at his last few fights. Okay, he did win finally. But it's been back in July against Gabriel Silva, a decision. Before that, missed weight at Bantamweight. Okay? He did make weight for the Flyweight Championship. Got beaten by a flying armbar in 2017. This guy's not been the most active in the world. But it's hard. 2 fights ago, okay, March last year, almost a year ago, he didn't make bantamweight, and here he is coming back at flyweight. I don't know what kind of song and dance he had to do to get a fight at flyweight, but here we go. Now, let's take a look at Rogerio. Bontorin just beat Willian Paiva by TKO. A cut, I guess, if you will. Another win. Magomed Bibulatov. And then, this guy is, of course, Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series guy. And that's how he got in the UFC. So, there you go. I don't know. See, this is... Well, if Ray Borg can make weight healthily, I think Ray Borg wins this fight. I think he's going to kill himself to make this weight, though. And I'm going to go with I think will be an upset here. And go for Rogerio Bontorin. It doesn't make me feel good. Next up, Diego. The Nightmare? Is it the Lionheart? Is it the Dream? I don't know. It seems to be different all the time. But Diego Sanchez coming back about Michel against Michel Pereira. Okay, last time Diego had one corner man and the voices in his head, and that's it. I have not heard much about this camp, who he's training with, who he's going to come out with. I certainly hope it's more than one guy that, as Joe Rogan put it, gave him non-advice in that last fight. But, Diego's tough. Diego is a veteran of the sport. Diego gave Michael Chiesa a run for his money. But it was, of course, a loss. And, of course, he did have the one corner man. Before that, 2 wins in a row. Fights I thought he would lose. Mickey Gall and Craig White. Has a loss to Matt Brown. Has a loss to Ally Quinta. Everyone loses to Ally Quinta. Because the man, all he does is spinning heels and making deals. He's the world's most dangerous real estate agent. All right? It is what it is. But let's take a look at Michel there. He just had a loss of his own back in September. Cowboy versus Gaethje card. Just lost. Unanimous decision. For that, 3 wins in a row, though. Danny Roberts, Daesung Kim, Won Jun Choi. 2 of those fights, of course, being in Road FC. So he does have a win in the UFC. Gosh, I don't know what's going on with Diego. I don't know what kind of camp he had. I don't know who's coaching him. So any MMA insiders listening to this, feel free to let me know. I don't have a clue. But I'm going to say I don't like this for Diego. I don't like any fight for Diego these days. Ooh, man. I don't feel great about it, but I'm going to go with Michel Pereira on this one. All right, the main event of the evening. Corey Anderson. Jan Blachowicz. Okay, Jan is the middleweight killer. Why do I say that? Because he kills these mini middleweights coming up. trying to be light heavyweights because, it's too hard for him to make middleweight. There's not a 195-pound weight division, which there should be. There's not. So here we go. 2 in a row. He beats Jacare Souza, Luke Rockhold, both trying to come up to 205 pounds. But one guy that does stop him coming up for 185 is Thiago Santos. And what a freaking pace that guy can put on. It's insane. Some would say he even beat Jon Jones, so that's not anything to cry about. Before that, he wins, okay? But there is one fight we need to understand. His loss against the same man he is fighting. But this is way back in 2015, and it was a decision loss. Who knows what's going to happen here? Let's take another look at Corey Anderson. Or take a look at Corey Anderson here. 4 wins in a row all of a sudden. Johnny Walker, Ilir Latifi, Glover Teixeira, and I think he sent Patrick Cummins. I mean, he does have 2 losses. OSP, people lose to OSP. It's okay. Jimmy Manawa, people lose to Jimmy Manawa. That's okay. And he does have a nice surprise loss here to Shogun Hua. That's way back in 2016. Not the most active guy here, but who do we think is going to win this fight? I don't know. The fact that he has a win over Jan, I don't know what that means, honestly, because their trajectory has been so different, Let's say Jan got beat by his last fight. The last time he lost was Thiago Santos, which can very well be the number 1 contender here. This is really tough to say here. Oh, man. Even strength of schedule, it's a little different. Like I said, though, Jan just fought 2 middleweights. Ooh. When he knocked Jared Cannonier down to middleweight. Corey Anderson, though. The strength of schedule here with Corey Anderson, he may have Jan's number. He may try to wrestle him to death, which he should. And, this is a game-time decision here because I did not have a clear winner coming into this. Most of the other fights I did have an idea. And I was going to have to decide during this podcast. And I'm running out of time. What am I going to do? Who am I going to pick? Well, I'm going to tell you who I'm going to pick. Maybe. No, I got to do it. I got to go with Corey Anderson here. I think he's going to win. We'll see what happens. And that's it. So thank you so much to listening to another ad-free MMA Fight Picks podcast. I'm going to stay ad-free. Maybe insert my own little plugs here and there. Like, for instance, you can go to AaronSaysWhat.com. Support the podcast that way. Lots of cool stuff there. Lots of cool deals. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say about that. Until next time, this is Aaron Weinbaum with the MMA Fight Picks podcast. Shalom.
Please remember to support the podcast by visiting the affiliate links on AaronSaysWhat.com.